Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the former world champion Zerg in the red, the Executioner. It's Rogue, facing off against the Terran with the StarCraft 1 SCVs. In the blue, we have Micro Jackson, ByuN. In a best of 9 Terran versus Zerg StarCraft EVO Complete Tournament Showdown. The mod that brings StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2 together. So if you happen to be a fan of either of those games, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, maybe even subscribe. Let me count the algorithm before we get started. And Jimmy, what are we at? 1,727 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know why I'd do anything else with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. As it doesn't matter whether it's the original series of StarCraft 2 or the next generation. ByuN is gonna find a way to build a bunch of Marines and go stimming across the map. He's already got the Academy done, so his Marines can learn to shoot even more good. He's got Stim Pack on the way, medics in production. Sure, it wasn't until after the war, and before StarCraft 2, that they learned how to slap the add-ons onto the barracks themselves, or the ComSat on top of the command center, or the depots below the ground. But that doesn't mean these Marines aren't incredibly dangerous. In fact, I believe the StarCraft EVO Marines have even more DPS. Once they get their fancy range upgrade, they can shoot even further. Though it appears they don't get their combat shield. I'm starting to think they actually just stole them from the medics after the medics were promoted into the medevac. Alright, that's now my headcanon. I refuse to elaborate further. 2 ComSats thrown out, since they don't really have any other purpose besides constantly bothering the Zerg and giving them light radiation poisoning. Scouting the main base, roaches on the way. A more stable answer. And in StarCraft EVO, the stats aren't the same as their StarCraft 1 counterparts, but the vibes are there, and the danger as well. And in fact, the StarCraft 1 races, in my opinion, in many cases are stronger than their StarCraft 2 counterparts. But the entire idea is they're competitive. The players will be switching off throughout the series. So who will be the more comprehensive StarCraft? Well, I'm thinking about it, and then I see Marines and medics just moving across the map and realize that we could see exactly the same build out of ByuN up to 9 games in a row, and it wouldn't even necessarily be a bad idea. But we'll see if going this deep onto the creep is going to be a bad one for Rogue. There is a 50% miss chance up to the high ground, but the Roaches are grinding through the Marines, but I think the Marines are tearing them up even more quickly. Don't know if there's enough energy for another scan. Marine range is on the way at the Academy. Or, as I like to call it, the school for kids who can't shoot good. A machine shop on the factory. And the barracks. I do love almost everything, especially everything that's significantly different in StarCraft 1. Has a custom model. These are by the modders themselves. You can find more on scevo.net. Or, you know, you could actually just play it. It's free, just like StarCraft 2. But, so is liking and subscribing and jumping in the comments. But I digress. As ByuN has added more Marines, he's throwing some siege tanks on. Meanwhile, roaches are the order of the day for Rogue, trying to make sure that the small bio ball that ByuN has put together doesn't roll right through. Scan. Is that gonna wall off? Meanwhile, siege mode being researched. Those siege tanks. More fragile, but less supply, and absolutely devastating. I believe they have slightly more range than their StarCraft 2 counterparts as well. And of course, the sound is... Rogue, up to 62 drones. Meanwhile, ByuN, only 50 SCVs, but he's building up those upgrades, and the unit composition, oh, there's a starport on the way. As time goes on, and it becomes less and less likely a direct push is going to get the damage done, StarCraft 2 Zerg does not have any really direct answers to the science vessel and its irradiatability. In my experience, a critical mass of science vessels does critical damage to the Zerg. Even if they have things like Ultras, Lings, Banes, it doesn't matter. You can just irradiate everything, like your very own personal Chernobyl. The Marines just stimming by, knocking out the 4th base. The Roaches don't even have speed done yet. StarCraft 2 races are effectively if not identical, including the new patch. Microbial Shroud, the budget Dark Swarm, is available to Rogue if he chooses to use it. Will it be good enough? Honestly, against StarCraft 1, Terran, it might be better than its current StarCraft 2 version, where it's good, but usually almost anything else you choose is better. Irradiate is on the way. The science facility spinning up. The first science vessel in production. A changeling. Hey, boy, in the pipe 5x5. I mean, you want a piece of meat, boys? No, you're the meat, boys. Changeling, job's finished. Successfully scouting out those units, allowing Rogue to realize that he can just run them right over. 24 Banelings on the way. And those Banelings with their plus 5 HP in the newest StarCraft... Is that 2 science facilities? Hey, knowledge. Here in my garage. ByuN? Really intent on getting... Or he misclicked and meant a starport. But either way, the Changeling finally gunned down. A little bit too big for its weirdly bioengineered britches. The 4th base, and so far, just the little skirmishes around the edges. ByuN's lost 14 Marines and a brave medic. Rogue, some roaches and Zerglings, but already an Ultraless Cavern on the way. And unlike their StarCraft 1 counterparts, those Ultras can cleave through the entire army simultaneously. Though, they put on some weight as well. I don't know why I'm acting like Brood War was last week when it was... It works for me. That's what's important. There's the Irradiate on the Ravager. Hits the air as well, and the Siege Tank spread. There's a Changeling mixed in, almost impossible to spot, but... The Irradiate, oh no! Oh no, the Ravager, stop the spread! But the Irradiate melting through the Ravager and making everyone nearby uncomfortable. Very difficult to pick, well, more Changelings. Rogue, Mass Ultralisk. The quality has a quantity all its own sort of strategy for dealing with these science vessels. It seems like is Rogue's intent. +2 infantry weapons and +1 infantry armor for ByuN. Still pumping out siege tanks, marines, and science vessels. Meanwhile, Rogue is maxed out with 80 drones, and he's starting to really grab a lot of the map. So, ByuN building a wall to try to keep the Zerg out, but the Banelings roll right through. And remember, those depots can't lower, so it's a bit of a conundrum there. I'm not sure it's too difficult to take them out later on. But ByuN trying to take a position in the center of the map, whereas Rogue is trying to take the rest. A Spire is on the way. Chitin is plating is 3/4 of the way there. A second starport with, I believe, the control tower in production to build up those science vessels. How many vessels? Just 3 of them for now. Not enough to reliably irradiate across the board. The bunker is not filled and the door is wide open. The Zerglings get in. Adrenaling's gonna be in the mineral lines and there's not too many reinforcements to deal with. It has to scramble back. Bunker finally filled up. Bit of an oversight there. Will cost him on the field. The siege tanks laying into the Zerglings. And will be driven back most of the army. But 4 SCVs dead, which seems remarkably low compared to the potential damage those Zerglings could have done. And ByuN is still at 71 SCVs. And we are on one of the StarCraft Evo maps. Depending on what sort of map we're on, the economy is slightly different. In that StarCraft Evo maps have a main base. Wait, what is going on with the grass growing up out of the... Don't worry about it. They have more mineral patches, and they don't mine out quite as quickly. Usually around 1,500 for all of them. In SC2, it's split between 1,800 and 900 per patch, the big and small ones. So generally mines out more quickly, especially with things like mules. But one Ultra trundling through, irradiating an Ultra as it closes in, is an existential threat to everyone nearby, but irradiates across the board, melting through so many of the Banelings. But the Ultra's closing the distance. Is there a defensive matrix? Absolutely not. But the firing line of Terran will drive it all back. The Ultra's melted underneath the irradiates. The siege tanks cut into everything behind it. And the Marines are stimming forth, though the medics are really stressed out about it. Half the Marines in autumn colors, appropriately so, very seasonal. And the science vessels are chasing down the Ultralisk he just scanned, as the anti-air consists of a very angry queen. This is restricted airspace. Wait, are those science? You remember science vessels, Susan? Don't remind me. Well, they're right there. Are you okay, Susan? Changeling spotting out the army. Sorry, blacked out for a science vessel. The big daddy of that science facility. Sorry. Wait, did I say that? Either way, science facility just hanging out. The extra one, just in case. The Department of Redundancy department also on the other side. Did he get all the upgrades he needed? He got irradiated. You know, the rest, psh, forget about it. ByuN is maxed out. He's got 70 Marines, 7 medics, 12 siege tanks, and 6 science vessels. Rogue also maxed out with a bit more of a smorgasbord of StarCraft 2 Zerg. Corruptors knocking out the science facility. And, well, everything can be irradiated. Well, not even just biological units. It just only does damage to biological. In fact, I think it's about this time, if somebody hasn't yet, commenting on the magic eraser of circle jerking your irradiate onto your science vessels and then rubbing it all over their drones, which is widely considered to be a dick move, but also very effective. And we'll see as he's got an armada of science vessels. Oh, ByuN, I like the cut of your jib. And just for, in case you hadn't been sold on playing the game yet, yes, all the sounds, including the units themselves, are very much in the game. Meanwhile, there's a huge drop coming in. ByuN slowly but surely sieging his way across the map, and Rogue looking to change the equation here. And there's not much back at home to defend. Oh no. The science vessels irradiating the ultras, coating each other with the irradiate, but the main base, he was maxed out. He didn't have the reinforcements, and now ByuN is scrambling back yet again. Multiple barracks in the sky, another block, D-Matrix saves, and irradiate and D-Matrix with the Wombo combo, ultras in the main, cleaving and melting through the Marines, but the DPS is still too damn high. Corruptors cleaving through. No, the Corruptors knocking the vessels out of the sky, the ultras trying to work on everything on the ground. But so far, ByuN holding most of his bases, loses 16 SCVs. And that is more significant than their StarCraft 2 counterparts. You can't magically drop a bunch of mules out of orbit. Just old-fashioned, hard-working, blue mineral 60 HP SCVs are required in order to drag those minerals out of the patches. If the number gets too low, you simply can't replace them easily. Nidus Network is on the way, the more aggressive version. 5 medics. Couple siege tests, 7 medics. Show me where it hurts. No further tech gotta be on, but he's still managed to keep most of his science vessels alive. Only lost 2 of them. Vipers were on the way. Main base under attack. 4th base to the north, as Rogue is hitting him on all sides. And D-Matrix on one of the Marines eats a few extra Ultralisk hits, but the irradiate is dangerous to everyone nearby. More SCVs going down, 16. Apparently some drones dying as well, though I'm not entirely sure where. No easy way to get there. A Nidus in the main, but the Marines are in position to deal with it. He's still gonna pop out a few Zerglings to buy some time. Not gonna work out. Dropping in on top of the 3rd. Comsat looking for burrowed legs. Again, going to hit the 9 o'clock base. Rogue dropping all over the place like it's a Skrillex album right now. Meanwhile, another Nidus to the north, and this one will eventually be taken down, but more SCVs faltering. Down to 58. More Comsats coming in. Dropping back. Ultralisk drop, harass. Witch Overlord, and he uses it as cover for the Nidus worms. Irradiate on both the ultras. They'll just bathe in it. They don't really have another choice. Dunking your heads in the sand is not going to solve that particular problem, but cleaving through, a D-Matrix saves yet another. But the Nidus is complete, and Rogue, the swarm on all sides. The multiple Nidus worm, Zerglings, double Nidus in the main. The drops have tapered off, but the Niduses are screaming into existence like so many of us. Meanwhile, another Nidus to the north. Irradiate in the streets of the base, but another couple ultras are obliterated by siege tanks and marines. But the middle of the field finally being cleared up. The missile turrets, as well as the remaining siege tanks, have been swept away by the ultras, lings, and, well, it's just ultras and lings nowadays, but Rogue, spending all of his money, finds a safe spot for the Nidus. But don't worry, there's a few more tanks where that came from. 17 siege tanks, and both players are still maxed out. Rogue has 8 hatcheries. ByuN with 5 command centers. He's mining from 4, he's trying for a 5th, half HP now. Corruptor's gonna knock down another science facility. Losing both would actually be kind of a big deal, as he can't build any more vessels without it. The siege tanks, friendly fire, SCV trying to get in on it, the changeling stuffed at the door. Wonder how many times ByuN tries to raise and lower the depots. At this point, I doubt it's too often, but the main base is wide open. The beachhead has been carved out by the Zerglings and Ultras, and more Nidus is on the way. Rogue just will not let up, and now the Ultras in the main base. Oh no, 4, 5 Ultras, but the positioning of the barracks funneling them one by one into the siege tanks and the Marines, but he needs the science vessels back at home. Meanwhile, mid-map, siege tanks alone, Ultras just tanking the damage on the face, and with the Zerglings, they're gonna be able to take the entire tank line. That's awkward. Oh, they didn't have vision. The attack speed is so much lower, but the damage is so much higher on those siege tanks. You can really feel it on both sides. ByuN somehow stabilizing with nearly equal supply. Rogue has taken everything. There's 2 unclaimed bases. Rogue has 9 or 10 of them now. He has as much income as he could ever need, but can he put enough units on the field to make use of it? The larva, currently the limiting factor. The ability to reproduce. He's gonna need to make hatcheries like it's Brood War. Double, triple, quadruple irradiate. The entire zone needs to be quarantined by the end of this. The parasitic bombs, a pale shade of the irradiated south. And the siege tanks are pushing forward. The Ultras popping out into the main. The changelings trying to convince the Marines they can take the fight, but the Marines not so easily convinced. Meanwhile, still fighting in the streets, but the Ultras closing in. A single siege tank boxing out. More Niduses. Rogue starting to cleave into the production. The barracks positioning has been the real MVP this game so far. But the Ultra count is so damn high. Rogue just continues sending them into the meat grinder, and eventually it seems like it's getting gunked up with so much meat he might be able to break through. But a D-Matrix on yet another siege tank, and he's gonna hold the line for now. Siege is up another half dozen, obliterates the Ultras, and ByuN is at 170 to 150 supply. Rogue continues refilling, but he's out of money. The first 3 bases have completely mined out. So far, Rogue has lost 20,000 more resources. 7,000 more gas. An absolutely, obscenely cost-ineffective game. But it's not about being cost-effective. It's just about being effective. It's not about how many lings and ultras you lose. It's about how much you get done with them. And unlike in StarCraft 2, ByuN can't just pick up, plop down at a base, and mine 2,000-3,000 minerals in a minute with mules. It is a more methodical process, and he's clearly showing the potential cost efficiency of the science vessels, marines, and tanks, because almost literally that's all he's built. And medics. But Rogue forced back 26 siege tanks. I think I saw a cinematic like this. There we go. The Maginot line is drawn. The Zerg looking to blitzkrieg through. But the rush has ended. The times of plenty are no longer with us. Swarm hosts, Sir Richard and his band of swarm host brethren. Rogue, I feel like Rogue just spent the last minute like flipping through the Prima strategy guide. Metaphorically, of course, if it still existed. Have to pay respects. Trying to figure out what he could actually do. The Ultras and Lings did not get it done. He's lost 500 Lings, 32 Ultras. But Swarm Hosts might be uniquely suited to deal with this, because Irradiate is not necessarily the ideal choice against the Locusts. Temporary units against a regenerating energy spell. I have no idea. And the friendly fire potential of the siege tanks, well, it's not friendly at all, but the collateral damage is, as we've already seen, potentially devastating. Rogue has now expanded to literally every other base, but the one ByuN is currently fighting over. Parasitic Bomb, he's trying to get close, throws out one. And it doesn't stack, but starting to chew into it. Meanwhile, dropping more out, the SCV's fighting heads up, and the siege tank obliterating them over the... What? The battle has continued for 17 minutes straight? The battle resets if there's not a unit lost for a minute. Well, this isn't very helpful, but it's also incredible. ByuN has killed 13 SCVs and 21 Marines. We're just throwing that one in there. The war continues. And Rogue is using swarm hosts from his main in order to siege up ByuN's expansion, as ByuN is going to have an incredibly hard time defending any others. Suddenly, there's so much money in the bank for both sides. The meat grinder continues to claim hundreds of units. Oh, it restarted finally. Maybe it's like Schrodinger's battle report. Until I check it, it's just going to keep adding up. 30 siege tanks. 30. 2 supply apiece, clearly demonstrated here. But that might actually be too many. The swarm host raining down, going to force the evacuation of the entire base. The vast majority of those 30 siege tanks now set up to the south. Rogue, he's mined out of like 4 bases so far. And if ByuN is able to cut off a couple, then if he continues this obscenely cost-efficient style, it might be enough. Irradiate, I don't know if it's enough damage to outright kill the Viper, but he's tracking it with one of the science vessels. Meanwhile, spicy ultras closing in. He's erasing the drones. I think he cast it with a different one beforehand, but 13 drones dead to the eraser. Some more autumn-colored Marines headed for the south. The 6 o'clock base. More erasers above. Defensive matrix to keep the siege tanks intact. And most of them survive the engagement. But another wave of locusts from the north. Rogue has no gas at all. He's completely out. What is he mining? A few hundred a minute? He didn't actually claim the gas guzzlers at any of his outlying bases. Wait. He burrowed the drones, which prevents the splash damage from the irradiate in the sky from killing them. Wow, some great foresight there. The siege tanks taking out legions of Zerglings, but more behind them. Another ultra irradiated, but you can tell that both sides are starting to run out of units. It's pretty clear to ByuN that Rogue is on the dregs of his economy, but he still can build plenty of Zerglings. Whereas ByuN himself is starting to run out of minerals. You can't do anything without minerals. With low gas, you still have options, but no minerals, no game. The siege tank still laying into the Zerglings, rallied past the fleet of science vessels, which once looked like the most dangerous army in the game, still does, but it was more fun before. Those science vessels are still the most potent units on the field or above it, but they just haven't been able to get enough done before Rogue just outran them on every side. Still, though, look at the supply. ByuN has the lead. Rogue is down to 54 drones, which is not critically low, but it's getting there. ByuN down to 35 SCVs, which is clearly not very good either. Another scan, probably to clear up some burrowed Zerglings, as the science vessels can't be everywhere at once. 11 swarm hosts on the field. I think the swarm hosts really shifted how this game was played. No longer the constant, unending, and eventually tapering swarms, but instead a host of it. The locusts, a lot more cost-effective than the lings and banes and ultras being thrown over and over into the siege tank lines. As the locusts drop down, Sir Richard and his band of swarm host brethren, not an accident, but instead intentional, against this siege line. The science vessels have intercepted the swarm host, though, and hunted them all the way into the heart of the swarm. And I think a radiate is enough to kill them in a single go, especially if and the damage stacks exponentially. Oh my. A few science vessels going down, but the swarm host will be wiped out. Meanwhile, ByuN's still trying to clear the field. Another base. The siege continues. The waves of locusts from these surviving swarm hosts. Just 2 or 3. But here comes Rogue down the center. The siege tanks just wiping out entire waves of Lingbane. But closing close enough that the tank count is cut down to single digits for the first time in the better part of half an hour. 27 minutes of some of the most brutal Terran versus Zerg. And, well, ByuN's almost out of money. Rogue has similar army supply. The banelings are rolling through. The siege tank's not enough to wipe them all out. The Marines are just gone. Without the combat shield and without medics. And it's over. No trailing it out. Oh, wow, we got the icons. Even though I think he was the StarCraft 2 Zerg, so that icon doesn't really make sense, but we even have the score screen icons now. That's the first time I've seen it. That's sick. StarCraft 1 Zerg icon has a different vibe to it for sure. Well, that was game 1. 230 Marines. 1,113 Zerglings. 37 Ultra. Through all the fire and fury. A surprisingly even... And honestly, I forgot Rogue One. Obviously not the movie, it was great, but it just... It was like a Rocky movie there, like... It was about who's left, really, at the end. Well... Alright. We get a chance to turn it around. I don't know if they took a break or they jumped right into it. Knowing these two, though, they probably jumped into the next game within less time than it's taken me or Jimmy to load it up. I don't like to reference the help, but sometimes I need it. Rogue, spawning with your fancy teal. Thematically appropriate. StarCraft 1 Zerg, here on Kione. Kione? Kai 1. Sure I'm nailing it on all sides. This is one of our StarCraft Evo maps as well. I think we're going to have about an even split. I think the players can decide, but again, it really just... The difference is the starting mineral patches and the overall economy. I think even the regular melee maps get changed. Either way, ByuN with his slightly more regular StarCraft 2 Terran. This match from the Enki Epic Series, Enki TV, the Spanish caster. So, if you speak Spanish, well, make sure to check them out afterwards. But, if you speak enough English to understand me, make sure to like and subscribe first. Oh, that's an extractor. I had no idea what that was in the production tab for a second. Wow, it looks so crazy. Let's get our... Does he know? So, I'm pretty sure... Oh, wait. This might be a 4-player map. So, it's interesting how the 4-player maps are handled in StarCraft Evo. Because Brood War, a lot of the maps are remakes from Brood War. have a lot of 4-player maps, but 2 of the potential starting locations are shown in the first 90 seconds of the game. There's an indicator for the players on the map. So it effectively turns it into a 3-player map. They can see which 2 locations that their opponent could have spawned in. So instead of a 4-player map where you'd have to scout 3 locations, which with the StarCraft 2 economy starting so strong, doesn't really work very well, it narrows it down effectively to a 3-player map. And the reason why we still use the 4-player maps are because they're cool and have different dynamics that you don't really get, especially on 2-player. So I actually really like how it's handled. It feels supernatural. Unlike whatever's going on with the weird hands that's there. What is going on? Okay, do they have hands? Every time I look at it, one, it makes me uncomfortable, but like in a good way. But also in a not good way. You know what I mean? It's okay if not. I don't need that. What happened to you? Don't look at me like that. No, you used to be ugly. I'm just saying. I gotta... Looks like Rogue with the ye old Zergling rush. Adding some extra hatcheries, but Zergling speed is done. There are some speed zones in the highway to hell across the map. This is a gold base here. I don't think that's a ramp. That's just a terrain difference. It looks like Rogue. All right. Is he just going to run in? And ByuN is doing a 3 racks medevac build. Oh, ByuN, never change. He's like, I won't. Literally the same, or pretty effectively the same build. Unfortunately, this build also deals with Zerglings very well. Rogue gets completely shut down. And honestly, kind of a total... He's at 22 drones. Which is not enough in this stage. He's got a layer on the way. We got the Hydralisk Den, tier 1. Crazy, right? Absolute madness. That's... Ugh. It's just the sounds. I think... Ugh. I don't... This is happening. Those Brood War sounds. And I don't have nostalgia. I know it's heresy, but I didn't play Brood War until well after already playing StarCraft 2. I was a World of Warcraft addict back in the day. So Blizzard still had my soul, and to an extent still does, as abusive as it is, but I can acknowledge that whether it was a technical restriction or a design masterpiece, the way that StarCraft 1... Like, you can close your eyes during a StarCraft 1 battle. Shout out to my blind viewers, by the way. Kind of have to, but... Close your eyes and you can figure out what's going on. In StarCraft 2, you can still do it pretty well. Though, in my opinion, they leaned a little bit too much on the realism. Right, the realistic sounds. Like, StarCraft 2 is such a technological masterpiece, unrivaled to this day. But Brood War, the lightning in a bottle that it was, and is, still to this day, stands out. That late 90s, early 2000s Blizzard was something else. I'm really asking, all right, but like to most of the audience. Also, how's the back, mate? You still have a CD-ROM drive? The lurkers! ByuN? Those StarCraft 1 lurkers. Less range, much more damage. So StarCraft 2 lurkers do bonus damage against armored. Whereas StarCraft 1 lurkers do bonus damage against light. Much more suited to dealing with mass marine, but less effective against things like marauders or stalkers. And obviously a much more mid-game unit as well. But ByuN, with his marines and his medic vacs, I told you, we're going to see the same strategy out of ByuN. Potentially 9 games in a row. And it's still going to make for some of the most dynamic gameplay. That tank is walled in. It's too thick. This actually, he has to open up, yeah, much like your mother, they have to open up 2 depots. Oversized load. That's gonna leave that one there. Unlike ByuN with his siege tanks finally making their way out of the base. Rogue up to 66 drones. He managed to get, what is it, 5 hatcheries now. Ugh. And a hive is on the way. So ByuN unable to really punish Rogue for the early aggression. The Queen's Nest is completed, allowing that hive to start morphing, evolving, bleeding, a little bit of all of them, and spawn brutaling on the Queen's Nest, of all things. A bold move, allowing the queens to turn, well, really any unit into just a couple broodlings, but I believe it costs a whole bushel of energy, which isn't an easy thing to come by this early, but we will see if the brood queens are up to the task. You know, Hydra speed about to complete. Queens in production. What is that ranged attack? No, that's Hydra. No, that is Hydra range, I believe. Looking at all the cool icons, which have been custom for StarCraft even, specifically. Not just copy-pasted from the campaign. And, well, out come the Hydras. And... Susan, you're flying again. Of course I'm flying, Brenda. Why wouldn't I be? Oh, I had a terrible dream where we had to walk on the ground like the filthy Terrans. Don't be ridiculous. We glide above. We're queens. We're monarchs. Why would we be on the ground like plebeians? I don't know. Don't ask these questions. Look, they're right there. Shut up. Sorry. I am... More queens on the way. Spawn brood, I have no idea how much energy it takes, but he doesn't have enough. 125, I think? And without the early energy upgrade, well, 4 siege tanks and the Marines on the high ground, working their way through the hatchery. Another siege tank is shelling from the watchtower, giving vision to all this. Yeah, things not going incredible, but he's able to knock out one of the tanks, saving the hatch, building up more energy with the queens at the back. And Rogue willing to try these, you know, at off-kilter strats, and the Hydra counterattack is absolutely devastating. ByuN, is ByuN gonna pull back? Those Hydras aren't nearly as dangerous individually as their StarCraft 2 counterparts, but they're far from individual here. Rogue completely undercutting. And, oh, trying to go up to the high ground. The mischance definitely not help. Oh, wow, that's a lot of damage. And ByuN actually coming back. The upgrades, +2 infantry weapons, +1 armor. But the most important thing here, besides these lurkers, the queens have now built enough. They can infest the command centers as well. Infested Terrans. A much, much, much more dangerous version than their StarCraft 2 counterparts. And yes, StarCraft 2 command centers can be infested, but I believe they need to be at 50% HP or lower. I feel like Rogue is heading towards that. He's got the energy, and he's waiting for his opportunity as the queens. Biding their time. Yep, it looks like maybe it's 150. Wow, it is 150 for the spawn brutally. I guess the ability to insta-kill a siege tank is kind of a big deal. I'm not sure if you could cast it on air units. But here we go. He didn't research Ensnare. So, well, here we go. The queens over the top. Looking for an opportunity. The boys are pulled off the line. Spawn brutaling on the tanks, but he guns down the queens. The monarchy being taken out of the sky. But he's trying to get some more. Are there enough Marines? A few lurkers burrowed. Broodlings spawning out of the siege tanks. ByuN loses 28 SCVs, but still, those Hydras not quite breaking through. He drops the mules, and Rogue is driven back. He tried to break through, but the Queens and their Broodlings not enough, at least for now. He's now researching Ensnare, but oh no, Rogue. He may have dug too deep and possibly too greedily, but, well, again, that's a crazy income graph. These colors. Mount Mule, or the Grand Mule Valley, may be carved momentarily. Rogue at 69 drones, which is a very nice economy. But, ByuN, still with enough SCVs to be competitive, and those mules dropped to bring the incomes closer to parity. And the army supply is about even. The attack, if he had 1 or 2 ensnares in that fight, I think it's not even close. Ensnare, it not only reduces movement, but it also reduces attack speed. At least to my understanding. Wait, Jimmy, can we get tooltips, please? It's been many years since I needed them in most cases, but let's see if I can. I don't know if we can see it on the. No, it doesn't show. What about this one? I don't have a help menu either. I need an adult. Anyways, though, I just want infested Terrans. What is this? Overlord Speed is on the way. Ghosts for ByuN. Get him out! Enki has left the game. Which is kind of concerning considering he's hosting this. What is that madness? The energy? Starting energy and max. It's very interesting in StarCraft 1. There are a lot of upgrades for max energy, which obviously has implications of being able to cast more before running out. And almost all spellcasters, I believe, have something like that. It's something completely absent from StarCraft 2. So, that's all I got. It's interesting. I say it's just my voice that sounds like that, all right? I can't help it, I'm sorry. But that's not even leading, it's just, it's interesting we decided not to have that. I guess it is a little complicated. It kind of feels like one of those for the sake of it upgrades, but it adds a lot, especially with the incredibly high energy cost on many abilities for Broodlord. A Defiler Mound is coagulating in the main, and an Ultralisk Cavern. Honestly, that should be a Defiler Mound. And some Ultras. I think he already got Adrenal Glands a long while ago. The Adrenalings. Absolutely devastating. Way better than their StarCraft 2 counterparts, but not nearly as good as their StarCraft 1 because you can select more than 12 at a time here. Rogue somehow playing a very similar game to the last one. We've flipped the script overall. The Queens? Well, you're looking beautiful today. Is that a new carapace? No. In fact, we have the same one. I was kind of just fishing for compliments. You know me too well, Lucille. You know, I'm starting to think you're a little facetious, Brenda. And if you're not careful, that's gonna age you. Okay, well, I hope the ghosts shoot you first so you won't age at all, Lucille. What do you mean, shoot me? They're more for Protoss. Oh, no. No. Not anymore. Sorry. We've got Ultralisk Speed as well as Consume for the Defilers. Dark Swarm, of course. One of the most powerful abilities in the history of StarCraft, but Ensnare. Coating the armies. The Lurkers getting close. The Marines trying to stutter step back, but the Queen's mucking them up. 13 SCVs dead. The Ghost, though, pulled into action. What is that upgrade? Metasynaptic Node, of course. And then Plague. Chitinous Plating. We've got the Defiler. Energy upgrade. The Ghosts line up their shots. With the Lurkers to the north. That big job, huh? Overlords overhead. Detectors themselves. Slowly but surely. So apparently the ghosts straight up outrange the lurkers here. And the EMP, of course, is quite effective as ByuN, bringing the advanced post-Brood War Terran technology to bear. And the ghosts are just gunning down everything. But the Ultra's scrambling through the speed zones and cleaving everything underneath. The siege tanks, though, and they only attack one at a time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Rogue, again, overrunning ByuN, who's unable to put enough on the field to stop him. Both the StarCraft 1 and 2 Zerg so far. Far too much for ByuN to deal with. And the underwhelming performance so far. Some great games, though. I love Rogue in general. And his willingness. His willingness to switch it up like that. Or, I mean, I guess I've seen a lot of these StarCraft Evo games. I've played a decent amount. Rogue, actually, apparently I loaded up a game and it crashed. This game is going to be so sick, it literally crashed my StarCraft 2. Jimmy, do we not have a backup? We'll do it live. Or maybe we'll just cut right to, and then we'll put the cut right there. Nailed it. This may be an issue with the maps. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see. If it crashes again, then we'll just... Uh-oh. That's an interesting fatal error occurring. Well, it is one of our new maps. We will spoil it if I can't get it to start. Technical difficulties, or we'll just cut this part out. Either way, depending on how lazy Jimmy is. But in case you didn't know if we did it live or if it was all planned out beforehand, well, guess what? Here we are. All right, last attempt. Unfortunately, it seems the map straight up crashes StarCraft 2, which is not ideal. There's probably some issues with the replays conflicting with something. But, you know what that means? That means we're going to have to explain at the start of the next game that ByuN was able to take it. We're not allowed to show Terrans winning, okay? That's the conspiracy theory. But welcome back to game number 4, as because of technical difficulties and our unwillingness to show Terran winning, ByuN won game 3, but unfortunately because of some quirks of StarCraft 2 and the new patch and all that, we weren't able to load the replay. So the hidden strategies which he demonstrated in the, I believe it was a 10-minute game, will never be uncovered. At least right now, unless we can figure it out by the end of this. So, skipping forward. Just imagine you saw ByuN win with 2 medevacs and stutter-stepping Marine Micro. Or dropships. I believe he was playing StarCraft 1 too. But here we go. In the top left corner of ByuN, the only vestige of Protoss we're going to see today. We have the StarCraft 2 Terran, Micro Jackson, ByuN. In our first, just straight-up StarCraft 2 map. We still have the slightly larger economy minerals, but it is our, I'll just say it, generic StarCraft 2 map layout. I really hope that none of the other games are bugged out like that. We'll see. We'll just do this like a visual novel. I like to think my casts are like a visual novel, where I narrate the ins and outs, the stories that can be told within the game. Especially when both players are going for an early expansion, and we're probably going to wait 4 or 5 minutes before there's some intense action. And then, Winter realized that was just not accurate at all, and wasn't paying any attention, as Rogue went for a Zerg rush. Speed on the way, 6 Zerglings in production. And 2 what the hell is that? And that is definitely one of the locations you can put a hatchery. I wonder how much of this is Rogue just putting it out there to make ByuN think too hard. Because this is a straight-up Zerg rush. He's gonna see that, like, what is this? I guess it's for creeps. You know, maybe I'm thinking too hard about it. He's gonna get into the main. He's gonna see the gas. He's gonna see speed on the way. And the command center... Oh, we built a reactor immediately! Oh, if the Lings went in right now, they could cancel the command center outright. Why is he not sending them? Rogue! Oh, this is a... He's missing his opportunity! ByuN! He's gonna try to get into... Well, okay, well, that's still bad. It's not as bad as it would have been. He could have straight up canceled the base. These Zerglings are way more dangerous than their StarCraft 2 counterparts. And not just because they're already inside the house, but just in general. More damage. I believe the same speed, actually, but just more damage. Killing those Marines. Reliably killing Marines as well. Gonna work on the command center, but Rogue hitting him with yet another Zerg rush. Command center has to lift before the orbital command is done, which is quite a hit. And the Zerglings! He underestimated the commitment. The Marines on the high ground, but the Lings are just ripping them apart. To shreds, I say. And of course, ByuN is going to go 2 medevacs, Marines with stim. And despite the damage here... I thought he was building a lurker. No, he's researching lurker aspect for his Hydras. Couple Hydras in production, and just a couple lurkers might be enough to literally undercut any sort of Marine aggression. Rogue scraping out a few more drones, and it's going to be quite an effort for ByuN to reliably take his expansion here. It's just Marine. Rogue knows what ByuN likes, and I feel like he's going to use it against him. Those Hydras slithering across. Gonna make lurkers as soon as possible. He's just gonna dive in. And with no siege tanks, Rogue has a very good chance of just slicing through right off the bat. Oh, more lurkers. Is he gonna wait for him to move out? There's no siege tank on the way. The lurker aspect is completed. Five lurkers in production. Lurking right outside the base. The danger zone, if you would. I wouldn't, but you might. And the Zerglings sprinting. The lurkers scrambling in. It's just Marines. He might have a couple medevacs momentarily, but he's gonna catch the Marines out. The lurker surprise! And they're able to dodge for now, but he can start leapfrogging forward. Guns down 1. Siege tank has just now entered production. Another one actually just completed. So going to have a chance to potentially stall this out. Dodging back and forth. Hasn't even had time to heal some of those Marines. 3, 4 lurkers. Another one scampering up. And at some point, he might just be able to dive on him. There's the scan. Moving forward. Rogue jumps. He leaps, and if he's able to take out the tank, there's nothing to stop these lurkers. The Marines are gunning down the Lings, but the lurkers slice right through. The field runs red with the blood of both sides. The Rogue eviscerating the economy and slicing into the Marines. But again, he doesn't have that much at home. Eventually, though, ByuN does need to expand, sooner rather than later. A single siege tank. Now, attacking him for the high ground is a titanic endeavor. With that extra mischance as well. Trying to slice through, but the siege tank helping out a lot. Slamming into those lurkers. Gonna go for another one. Trying to use this scan while he still has it. One lurker remains. He might be able to just use the splash damage of the tank somehow. A single marine on top of it and then the siege tank, but it's not, oh, he's just gonna land the command center. And we're gonna see the scan indeed. And he sees a couple more lurkers on the way. Might be able to zone him out from ever getting too close. More siege tanks in production. Lost one armor behind it. And I think ByuN is held. It's not going to get any easier to break through. And Rogue only has 36 drones, so sneaking out a few more. But ByuN has mules, and he has this sort of scaling unit composition. Almost no. He has Hydra speed, Lurker upgrade, as well as Zergling speed. Oh my, those lurkers are crazy. Do you know lurkers have 5 legs? What's up with that? Wait, no, is that 6? I can't count. I think I see 2 lurkers have 5 legs. If you'd like to see extra legs, you can check out my Dronely Fans. After you like and subscribing on Patreon. Queen's Nest. And another Evo Chamber. Rogue going with the low economy, but high-tech Zerg to compete against. You already know what ByuN has. The Lurker easily taken out. ByuN now with a 20 supply lead. And it's going to be a while yet before Rogue really has much to match this composition. Groovy Spines now completing. Marines marching across the map, scanning forward in case of hold fire lurkers that could completely turn this game upside down. Good foresight, but he only has so many scans. 1 or 2 more on the main base. Rogue trying to buy some space. The lurker's on the way. He might just go for the counterattack, which is maybe a bit of desperation, but it's desperate times. The siege tank. The fact that he's not being challenged here, ByuN already knows that something's coming. And the lurkers will burrow down. The siege tank getting huge hits. The lurkers don't do much against it. Oh, and funneling through. He does lose the command center. But with just 1 lurker, he pulls the boys, the Hydras. There's another one underneath. But it's not enough damage. ByuN has held. And I think for the first time, barring our non-existent bug down last game, we'll be able to drive Rogue's aggression back with a strong enough arm that he breaks through. And the Hydra is just evaporating. ByuN ties things up 2-2. Oh, wow. That logo is intense and also inaccurate for this, for the fact he played StarCraft 2, but still. We're all tied up. Well, a cheeky Zerg rush into a very strong follow-up, but Rogue unable to get it done with the lurkers. Not quite the showstoppers that they are in StarCraft 2, but in StarCraft 2, they're a late-game unit, not a mid-game one. You know one thing I want to see that we haven't yet is Brood War Mutas. But I don't think we're going to get that opportunity because ByuN is our StarCraft 1 Terran, and Rogue our StarCraft 2 Zerg. As we head into the second half, potentially, well, either way, it's the second half of this series. Who knows? What I love about these two, especially ByuN, it really feels like it's for the love of the game. And yes, ByuN may play the same way almost every game, but he plays in almost every game. Almost every tournament show match. He's still in the top 10 and has been for over half of Clem's lifetime. So, and this tournament also partly sponsored by you, the people, as I try to use some of my Patreon in order to sponsor tournaments and show matches. and I contributed half the prize pool. Enki, of course, organizing and contributing the rest. So make sure to check him out and support him as well. But here was my stipulation. Can we get him to play all 9 games? I don't know if that's going to be necessary. But we may have some built-in anti-spoiler games. I'm not saying anything, but so far looking very evenly matched. And I don't know why I even mentioned that. ByuN is willing to play 30-minute, 40-minute, 50-minute games to a draw in like a 20... I don't even think, at least until the tournament's over, I don't think ByuN cares about the money. He wants to win, and he wants to play. Maybe not in that order. But, and it doesn't matter if it's like the World Cup or a one-off show match or the round of 32 of a weekly. I find ByuN playing like hour-plus long series on a daily basis. No one can say he doesn't love the game. Even the StarCraft 1 versus StarCraft 2 version. And again, since we got quite a macro start and you know what ByuN's already doing, make sure to check out SC Evo. You can play it against the AI, by the way, which is a lot of fun. And if you're not on the Korean server, it's kind of hard to find actual games in multiplayer. They are working on something resembling matchmaking, but that does require playing competitive StarCraft 2, which is not my target demographic, to be honest. Still, the fact, and here's the thing. Have any of these games felt unfair? Like there's a clear strategy that either side can go for and just win on either the StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2 side? In fact, and now I think part of this is simply because they don't play as much on this mod. It feels arguably more fair, I'm trying to mince my words here, than the current StarCraft 2. As there's some really hard edges with, in my opinion, the current StarCraft 2. But again, I feel like a lot of that is because players play it so often and so well. Like, it's so figured out. Compared to SC Evo, which, let's be honest, is kind of a part-time thing for many of these players. So, in fact, I'm so impressed that Rogue is... Now, since they're Korean, and both these players on the older side, one, you just have a genetic memory of Brood War. Unless you were... And both of them probably played it throughout their childhood. Like, I'm pretty sure that was required. So it's not like they don't know Brood War. And both of them probably had something resembling professional careers there as well. But using actually like the Queens and Swarm hosts for Rogue, and then ByuN. Okay, well, ByuN's just making Marines and Medics, or Marines and Medivacs, and Siege Tanks. But, okay, you know, if there's one thing Terrans fear, it's change. And also people who don't look like them. That's why they got their drugs, their guns, and they're gonna go deal with these disgusting aliens. Reminds me of home. The Marines just chilling on the creep. They should get a morale debuff. That does nothing besides makes them look sad on the portrait. Meanwhile, targeting some of the medics who just happen to be in front. But the Marines just laying into the roaches. Medics micro back. The roaches, yeah, finally targets. Clearly a priority. Able to heal so quickly. Marine range is on the way, but ByuN, the supply not looking incredibly great. But Roach is not the most efficient use of it. Hiding in the trees. Eventually, well, stimming some more. Really cutting into the numbers on either side. Oh yeah, it's crazy to me, and the way they balance, you can find some actually very detailed graphics and patch notes. More detailed than the multi-billion-dollar company that just released patch notes on scevo.net. It's actually just a nice site to look at, in case you're interested. But 99% of the time, they change the SC1 units, and SC2 remains the same. Though recently, they've considered adjusting SC2, but you got to be very careful with that in the because it is SC2 as a base game, and if you start changing SC2 too much, it's not SC2 versus SC1. It's just its own thing entirely. So But it's impressive, the careful balance, quite literally, they've lost to make the races competitive against one another on both sides. That's what I'm getting to. So competitive that Rogue needs 2 infestation pits in order to get to Hive. Rogue! Now, this is one of those things, it's not expensive, it's not a big deal, but it is indicative of a bit of an oversight there. I don't think Rogue is gonna notice in time. That way he can research Neural Parasite and Microbial Shroud at the same time. Absolutely. He just clicked on him. Oh, I think he meant to have a Bane Nest. Yeah, that's why he's like, oh, wait a sec. Yeah. Kind of disgusting when you look at it. Don't look too closely. Then again, both the Brood War and the changing spotting. Both Brood War and StarCraft 2 Zerg have their own idiosyncrasies, if you would. I wouldn't, because that sounds like way too fancy, and I'm not even entirely sure I know what that word means. But you might. Yeah. One of the observers pointing out the double okay. He spent an extra 100 gas on an infestation pit. Oh no, how will he ever recover? The medics, though, getting caught out, a couple immediately. Corrosive Bile is an existential threat, as it one-shots both medics and Marines. So a single hit could wipe out a chunk of the army in a much more effective fashion than against their StarCraft 2 counterpart. He just scanned to deal with the rocks, but an Ultralisk Cavern is on the way as that hive is completed. Baneling Speed is well in production. Now, more racks on the way as the barracks block is coming together. Without the obligation to build add-ons on each one, you can just... We saw how effective that was on Sylphin, game number 1. And ByuN setting up again, but Rogue, 82 drones, 19 banelings on the way. I can't help but think that Rogue has kind of leapt ahead economically. Much more so than in most of the other games we've seen. And he's going to have a strong opportunity to just break through immediately as soon as those Zergling or the Baneling speed is completed. We will see. At plus 5 HP, we've got... Oh. Jacked up and good to go. You want a piece of meat, boys? Dude, why are you so weird? You feeling creeped out? Well, you're about to. What? Yeah. That changeling hanging out. 3 Vipers on the way. Rogue unwilling. Well, obviously Viper is going to be quite an option. He's killing his own roaches. For what? To get more Ultralisks? Sure, why not? The changeling spotting the move out here. But Rogue already has so much going for him. He's got his entire half the map and counting. 200 supply. The tanks sieging forward. ByuN knocks out a changeling. Rogue is setting up absolutely everything. He's got chitinous plating done. There's only 1 science vessel. That's not enough. Does he even have a radiate? He does not. It's just a detector at this point. The corrosive bile. The science vessel slightly glides to the side, completely invalidating the corrosive biles, but hatchery gonna be taken out. Small victory to start, but can he carry it through? ByuN's nearly maxed out. It's going to be the full Brood War Terran firepower, but without much spell casting against everything StarCraft 2 Zerg really has to offer. We got Vipers, we got Ultras, we got Banelings with speed. This army. Well, and he's also circumventing much of it. The fact he didn't go irradiate means ByuN is really trying to hit this timing, and he's concerned that he's not going to be able to do so otherwise. But is forced to pull back. Roaches and Lings swing by the main base. There's no wall. The Zerglings get in. And now he's going to have to clean all this up. ByuN is maxed out. But that means not too many reinforcements popping out either. Bunch of the Marines stimming back towards the main, but Rogue has bought himself some more space as well. And the more time he buys out on the field, the easier it's going to get to just crush the push at the right timing. I think he's expecting a radiate to be done, but it simply isn't. The engineering bays, of course, can lift off. Siege tanks and Marines moving north. Still trying to break their way forward. We got +1 flyer and Carapace on the way, but here come the Vipers with nothing to deal with it, and the medics are all caught out. Defensive Matrix Parasitic Bomb. The D-Matrix is incredibly helpful. Blinding Cloud not doing nearly as much as I thought it would. And look at that spread. I can't believe it's not butter. The siege tanks all throughout, but a couple ultras trundling through. The tanks getting direct hits is so important. But meanwhile, the Zerglings must have been burrowed in the main like a campaign mission. Well, unburrow, and ByuN's SCV count starting to get ripped apart. 3-3 is on the way. A wall at the front, a single Marine in the bunker, but he's going to work on the hatchery to the north. The Marines try to support the push. An entire legion of Marines will stim, knocks out one of the Vipers. Try to chase down more. D-Matrix on the Marines. Zerglings ripping through the economy back at home. Parasitic Bomb, Blinding Cloud. Now working its way through without siege tanks on the back. Well, the Ultras, the Marines still do a lot of damage, but the Ultras seem to do even more. It finally takes out the Science Vessel with Corrosive Bile. Just rips apart a command center. 20 SCVs dead. Almost everything on the field. The siege tanks might be enough to hold. But we have to ask ourselves that eternal question. Have you liked and subscribed? And at what cost? 21 SCVs dead. Rogue, 200 supply. And he's not gonna stop coming, and he won't stop coming. Rogue takes 3. ByuN, overrun. No fun, but he's done. Rogue 3-2, not even match point. A best of 9, all right, do the math. I mean, spend some time doing the math, because we still got at least a couple more. Please work. Okay, it's just that one map. Because we got a new SC Evo map. I'm not sure if that was the one that was bugged out. I don't want it to break again. But no, we're jumping right in. Rogue 3, ByuN 2. In another topsy-turvy series between these two. It doesn't matter what version of the game, really what year it is. They've always gone back and forth. And it's still true. Alright. Rogue back on the StarCraft 1 drones. ByuN on the StarCraft 2. I'm gonna assume Marines and medevacs, though maybe he breaks out mech for the first time. You know, I haven't really seen much... I was about to say much attempt at Widow Mines, but when Overlords on their own are detectors, I feel like Widow Mines lose a lot of their potential. Why is that your first hatchery, Rogue? You spicy boy. What are you doing? I mean... Oh, he's maybe trying to wall off the Reapers? But I'm pretty sure you can jump in here. Always a concern. Reapers are quite a pain to deal with for StarCraft 1 Zerg, as there's no queens on the ground to deal with them. Though eventually the Zerglings get speed. You know what? Rogue knows what he's about. Alright? Like how we even have the spawn location. That's a pylon indicator, as well as spawn location counter. Which I do enjoy when map makers work those in. Also, the StarCraft 1 creep looks so crazy. That's also, it's dependent on the map, not on whether, as we saw in Game 1, Rogue had the StarCraft 2 Zerg, but he still had the kind of more crunchy as opposed to creamy creep. I will not answer any questions, and I refuse to elaborate further. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. Moving on. Unfortunately for Rogue, one of the few times this is actually relevant, he is on the northern side of the map, which means his larva spawns on the outside of the hatchery. I mean, it always does that, but to the south of it, rather, which is outside of the wall, more relevantly. Already a fourth hatch on the way. Not that crazy. And can you... Wow, crazy. Breakthrough. ByuN. Gonna go 2 racks medevac. I didn't actually expect him to do the exact same build in both versions of Terran every game, but I'm also not surprised. This is the effective equivalent of going 3 racks medic in the StarCraft 2 version. Of course, ByuN, the person who really pushed the envelope of Terran for quite a long time before Clem came into his own. Both the Reaper builds that got the Reaper nerf not once but twice, and then the 2 medevac timings that really forced Zerg players especially to tighten up their builds to the point that they couldn't slip through. Still very potent to this day, and potentially deadly to any flavors. +1 Carapace. Hydra speed. A somewhat passive start, but here come the Marines. And Rogue is now making some Hydras, but he's got to be careful that it's not too little and too late. He's still adding drones, which is getting a bit concerning. What is this drone trying to do? Another hatch? He loads up one. I'll get the next one. Okay. A double hatch. But the medevacs are not... Oh, he spots it now. Hydra's on the way. There's already a queen's nest. So, Rogue essentially sprinting to Hive. But ByuN gonna try to cut him off at the knees with the Marines. Stim is already done. Those Hydras aren't gonna be enough. Uh-oh. Oh, no. This is trouble. The Marines, the most predictable. And he just kills him. 5 minutes. Really a very sharp 2 medevac stim timing. ByuN cuts right through Rogue, and we're all tied up yet again. Oh my. Well, it just kind of ends. What is this madness? Another crazy map. It does load. I'm very, very happy about that and very stressed about the possibility it doesn't now. But subsequence. I feel like I saw this in a very old Team Liquid map contest. This reminds me of like the island maps in Total Annihilation / Beyond All. What is going on? I mean, it's a pretty standard start, but there's just a bunch of a checkerboard here. Crazy. Is it? Actually, they say it's somehow still pretty standard. It's just the initial look. I think both players, you can see their cameras on the minimap moving around. Like, huh, what's going on? Like, partially setting their camera locations, partially trying to figure out whether they're missing anything incredibly important, because I seriously doubt either of them have played many, if any, games on some of these maps. Where are you going? Oh, he's looking for proxy racks, which, you know, is not exactly a small possibility. Command center on the way. And now... Rogue the StarCraft 2 Zerg, by the way. Going 3 hatch. Wait, thinking about 3 hatch before gas. Just, wow, pretty convinced on the potential proxy Rex. But he scouts around, he comes back, and should have enough for that 3rd base right as it gets there. Only 6 mineral patches and 1 gas. Meanwhile, ByuN is going for... This is going to be a shock. Looks like 3 racks Marine. I know. Crazy. Marines on the other end. Both players just send out the early scouts. Overlords on their little pervert pillar here. Pretty large one. But clearly a high ground. The Marines can't spot for it. At least not yet. Academy slapped down. We'll see what Rogue comes up with. As we already know what ByuN's gonna try to do. I do love the look of those Marines, too. The gritty barracks. And it is different than even the classic skins of the... I'm not sure if that's the same as... I don't want to be insulting, but the command centers as well. That gritty look in the Brood War. They polished things up afterwards, apparently. For StarCraft 2. So I think StarCraft 2, the setting is like 4 years after the Brood War, not 12. Which... 12 years between StarCraft 1 and StarCraft 2, which means we should be working on StarCraft 4 by now, right? Emotional damage. Anyways. Stim in production. Marines. Comsat scans across, and I believe he spotted the Roach Warren. Important to get the spot, even though he... was likely expecting it. And going to evade the Overlord. But probably not quite expecting the second Overlord, which is going to spot him moving across the map and give Rogue the little bit of warning he needs. Is it enough? He's got some roaches already on the way, more in production. It's not that many Marines, and he doesn't quite have stim done yet. So, even moves a little Overlord back. 10 seconds on stim will be enough for half a dozen more roaches to complete. And I think that will be enough to make sure this doesn't get anything done. High ground. Roaches microing back, but there's just not enough Marines, and they don't have +1. So without the upgrades, not able to punch through nearly as easily. Well, Rogue with 52 drones. And ByuN a little bit late on Marine range as well. So there's a real chance to potentially just carry this across. He finds the Overlord. Rogue not supply blocked. And in fact, well, that gives away the position, obviously. For a second, I thought we might see Spider Mines, but... instead, he just misclicked the siege mode on the factory. Roach, Ravager, ooh, grinding through. Just staying right on the edge of the creep, and until Roach speed is done, there's not an easy way. Yeah, Comset, it only has one purpose. Just get those scans out there. Knocks out another Overlord. ByuN realizing why his first push was shut down so easily. Infestation Pit is on the way. The siege tanks in position. And the build-up continues. I feel like the layout of the map is putting both of them in kind of an odd position. Mentally. Where they don't feel comfortable really taking a fight until they have a clear advantage. Because the entire map is high to low ground. And with a 50% miss chance up to the high ground clearly, that can be devastating at the wrong angle. Much more of an impact than StarCraft 2, where it's just vision. Vision easy enough to come by in the Brood War. But, well, SCVs. The boys? Excuse me? This is a Marine tank SCV all in, and it's just roaches to deal with it. This has real potential. There's some Banelings on the way, but those are 60 HP SCVs. I'm not sure how many Banelings it takes to get through them. I think just 2. But that's 2 less to hit the Marines, potentially. So he's got to be quick about it. There is no Baneling speed. So the siege tank still could do a lot here. ByuN does not really have time to waste. Trickling through, but the Baneling's not really able to get anything done. The corrosive bile not finding the connections. ByuN, it's do or die, but he takes down the Baneling nest. This will be the end of him. Is it enough? The roaches and ravagers. Rogue scrambling to deal with this. +1 carapace now done. I think he's going to pull the drones off the line. The boys are still in the front. And corrosive bile knocking out another few Marines. The medics, more roaches popping out. The drones pulled from the third base. On the low ground, the roaches and ravagers, everybody off the line. The Marines just gutting down everything in their path. There's no mules back at home. The roaches eventually, it might be enough. He slaps together a defense. The medevacs out of energy and now out of line. And ByuN, he pulled his economy off the map. He took his shot. And it appears he missed. Rogue holds. ByuN pulls the extra dangerous boys. But it's not enough. In the end, it didn't even matter. Rogue to match point. Wow. A bold move. And unfortunately, it just did not work out for him. Rogue 1 match away. In this best of 9 saga. I'm taking it home. We're going to Vermeer. One of our largest and most dramatic maps for SC Evo. 4 players, but all the bases around the outside. Around the outside. Around the outside. That is a quirk of Brood War that I think it was much more relevant when you couldn't circumvent Defender's advantage nearly as easily. Like in StarCraft 2, for better or worse, and I definitely could argue either side of it, there's so many units that straight up ignore Defender's advantage. Besides the fact Defender's advantage is just high ground. You don't get extra damage, there's no mischance, anything like that. But things like medevacs and liberators and battle cruisers or Nidus and Zerg doesn't have much. Protoss with warp prisms and warp ins. It is a lot more mobility in StarCraft 2 compared to StarCraft 1. On top of the fact that just moving your units around or even telling your workers to mine in the Brood War is carpal tunnel induced. So, StarCraft 2, well, I think that was part of the thought process with designing StarCraft 2, which is another, like, the other side of it. When you don't have to spend a solid 10 to 30% of your attention, generously, maybe more for some people, in just getting your workers to mine and build out of your buildings, you have more space to potentially, you know, do micro or multitasking. And I think that was the thought process, and I don't think that's a bad idea in general in StarCraft 2. But that is part of why bases are located in more centralized positions and why we don't just stick them on the outsides of things. Because I feel like in Brood War, you could defend more easily those outside bases. Or in SC2, they're just a liability because you send 2 medevacs out to the corner. There's no way they're going to defend. nearly as easily. So now the way they play out in SC Evo is a mixed bag. Like the StarCraft 1 units are obviously much stronger, and the fact your workers automatically mine, and you have that economy. So, and ByuN, wow, crazy, absolutely wild. Gonna go for 2 barracks, a factory, a 2-1-1. Oh, ByuN, never change. Again, ByuN reprises. I never will. I fear not the Terran who has practiced 1,000 builds, but the Terran who has practiced 1 build several thousand times. And here we are. Mutas. Finally. And honestly, a potentially great response. These StarCraft 1 mutas are slower, but they have more range, and they have their unique sort of attack behavior. They managed to recreate the feeling of the kind of... Well, you'll see it. All right, I don't need to describe it. I don't know how to describe a bunch of flying rats, but they definitely feel very different in how they flock to the StarCraft 2 counterparts. It's kind of crazy the effort and expertise that's gone into really making the StarCraft 1 units feel how at least your imagination made them feel in the Brood one.
Complete.
Because let's be honest, were you actually able to micro mutas while doing anything else? And it wasn't like big game hunters? Come on, Grandpa. Six mutas on the way. Meanwhile, ByuN, in an absolutely shocking turn of events, is going for 2 medevacs, stim, and +1. Now, I think this entire game comes down to whether or not he's able to unload the Marines before the mutas have a meet and greet. Because here we go. They're going to meet right down the middle. The muta's coming out, and he's dropping out before Rogue realizes. Oh, no. That's a huge deal. Missile turrets already on the way. There's only a few Marines back at home, but the mutas are coming back to defend. ByuN anticipating him heading to the base, but he's just going to get behind the mineral line. Oh. Well. Unfortunately, the Marines are able to unload. Does he even have... He has stim. Yep. Is he dead? Uh-oh. Well, yeah, and they are in the close positions by air here, which certainly both players try to use to their advantage. Feel like ByuN more so. How many mutas went down? 5 mutas dead. All the Marines cleaned up. He should be able to hunt down the medevacs, but those mutas aren't quite as fast as their more spry, younger counterparts. They're able to take down the medevac, but the other one gets away and might be able to join up. So there's a lot of mutas down, and he actually took out the Hydra Den, which prevents any sort of shift into lurkers, at least very quickly after this. The mutas strong in general, and they have that very strong glaive attack that bounces through, but ByuN combat shield just now getting +1. But Rogue has less workers. He just now got the 3rd base. The supply depot's being targeted, but the medevac managed to join back up with the Marines, and there are no banelings. So it's just mutas and lings, and no upgrades besides Zergling speed. So ByuN doesn't know that for sure. He saw that Rogue was going for the Hydra Den before. Oh, the Marine stim knocks out 1 muta. Gonna try to cut off some of the reinforcements. ByuN coming forward. And can he actually siege up? I don't think he can siege the base, but he can scan. There's a single sunken colony looking to stall this out, but I don't think it will for very long. The Muta's clearly from the north side. The siege tank shelling. And Rogue gonna try to break out, and that is a lot of lings. And Muta count has grown dramatically. And ByuN actually cleaned up and swept from the field. Splitting off those medevacs yet again. He actually successfully baits them to the ones without units in it. Gonna kill a couple more drones. And clean up the medevac. So again, Rogue is able to clear the field. But again, he has such a mediocre economy behind it. ByuN is gonna struggle to break out. There are currently 18 Mutalisks. The command center going to be taken down. Oh. The Marines ground down by the Mutas. Takes out a couple. I don't know what the number of Marines per Muta ByuN can trade, but reducing the critical mass of Mutas is top priority for ByuN. If he doesn't do that, eventually he just gets overwhelmed. Loses a siege tank. Rogue coming in, loses a couple more. He's really trying to carve apart at the edges. ByuN finished his third command center in a precarious position. Behind it, is there even a Hydra Den? Oh, knocks out another medevac. There is no Hydra Den. There's no Queen's Nest. There's a bunch of drones chilling here, which Rogue can't really afford to do. Very Brood War-esque with the larva. Go home. The Rogue pulling the boys to attack. No, I don't think the Predator drones are here for that purpose. And a Thor on the way. 3 Goliaths in a trench coat. Slapped together. And one of the strongest counters to Mutas in StarCraft 2, and I believe that's still going to be true, even with +1 Flyer Carapace completing. The Mutas, he's lost 14 so far to 55 Marines. The supplies are still close to even. It's so close. God, it's so close. It's actually wild how evenly balanced this feels. This series. And the StarCraft 1 versus 2. Honestly, I can't even remember who played what for which game. It feels so even each time. But the Mutas on top of everything, trying to magic box, reduce the splash damage of the Thor. And when everything clears, you know, I had to do that whole spiel before. Just before ByuN reached the critical mass of Marines with a Thor and completely annihilated the entire Zerg army. The Mutas gunned down, knocked out of the sky. The Zerglings easily cut down. And look at the supply. As ByuN looks set on bringing us to game number 9. Wow. The Mutas knocked out Rogue. I don't think that's GG. ByuN laughing at him. All right, let's see. What did Rogue have to say to him? I know that's laughing for ByuN, but I'm gonna do the live translate. We're doing it live here. All right, you've made it like, what is this, an hour and a half in? Oh my. Can make it a little bit longer. All right. Moya? I don't. LOL, and then Rogue says no. No. Oh, maybe Mutas. Muta, no. Yeah, I agree. Muta, no. That's the closest I can get. And the only thing that would make some sense there. But Game 9. Never say these players don't give it their all. After the maximum possible games, we're going to our Matrix map from the newest Team Liquid map contest. ByuN with the StarCraft 1 Terran in the top right corner. Rogue with the StarCraft 2 Zerg. The score is 4-4. The Enki Pro Series, the Epic Series. I think Pro Series is StarCraft 2 show matches. Either way, in this feature-length Terran versus Zerg showdown. Are you prepared to go all the way? I'm prepared to go all the way. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I made a significant chunk of your day a little bit better. And now, the conclusion. Command center first for ByuN. Of course. Will he deviate from the build? Or will we see yet another reprise? Will the Zerg adapt and overcome? Or will the Terran stand too strong for them? Honestly, the SC Evo minerals, which are a different model because they are slightly different in their counts, and just to distinguish them, look so great on this map. Shiny. Two Rex. Can I get another one, ByuN? Hit me with a third Rex. He is getting 2 gas. I don't remember if that's the normal build. There's an academy. Maybe just quicker upgrades? No, see. Neither player been bothering scouting early. We've got the Overlord sent out. No SCV scout for ByuN. It could have been a 12 pool. And he might have just outright lost the game, but here we are. The Marines with Stim. This time really focused on getting those upgrades out earlier. And I do wonder why he got... You don't need the double gas in order to go Marine timing. Wow, those Marines look amazing on this map. Comsat's on the way. It has to be a factory, right? He's adding in some medics, but they only cost 25 gas. Like 50% short of that. Okay, 70. Okay, 69. Fire bats! Did somebody order propane or propane accessories? Still doesn't explain the gas. Is there an upgrade for fire bats? I mean, I know they can use stim pack. There they go. Looking hot. Which is a little concerning. The fire bats working their way out, making their way downtown, walking fast. Amazing. Stimming forward, the quick Branda! Hold! What else do you think? We have to do the everything in the early game. Oh, is it getting hot in here? Oh, yes it is! I know. Sorry. The queens will get gunned down, incinerated by the fire bats, and now the drones are gonna get charbroiled as ByuN mixes it up ever so slightly. The fire bats added in, just burninating across the countryside. And are they the difference? 7 drones dead. The Marines, the medic is completely out of energy. 7 drones. Rogue down to 30 drones with SC2 Zerg. It's a disaster. But is it enough? Well, the Marines, the Zerglings, the medics. Does he have... He does not have Marine range. And the medics were a little out of position, so the Zerglings just able to get the full surround. ByuN with a bit of a beyunder. Beyunder. And 2 fire bats on the way. Siege tanks with siege mode. Siege mode not quite done yet. Those fire bats should be enough to drive back the Zerglings, at least for now. Honestly, I'm surprised we didn't see them mixed in some of the other matches. They do cost a bit of gas, but I mean, they're so from my understanding, the reason they're so good is because they attack fast and they just do flat damage. So they're even good against queens and roaches, which have some armor, but they burn right through it. Another attack going out. More barracks on the way. ByuN still with a worker lead and a 3rd command center. The barracks block is coming together. Medic at the back. And, oh, well, the queens on the front line. That single medic overtaxed, underpaid, but the fire bats still fighting a ton of damage. Wow. So far, Rogue clearly losing almost double the resources, though. At this stage of the game, kind of hard to tell how meaningful that is. Now, finally, starting to get the worker count back up to where it needs to be. Double Evo chamber on the way. Science facility as well as a 2nd engineering base. So clearly going for the mass upgrade. Sticking with the bio as ByuN, of course. Barracks block all together. I do love the look. Something about it. Dropship? I know. ByuN. Infestation pit for Rogue. The creep spread looking absolutely incredible despite the struggles earlier. Marine range just now on the way. That's a big mistake. Not having marine range for this long. Pretty easy to miss. There's no real indicator besides how far your marines are able to shoot. So, but not having that range means a lot less ability to really capitalize, especially off the creep. Well, we'll see. Dropship's done. No afterburners, no healing. So you can load some medics in to help out. I don't think they heal while they're inside of it. Gotta pop them out the old-fashioned way. But Irradiate is in production. The fire bats mixed in with the army. Microbial Shroud. He didn't even get a Dark Swarm with the Defilers. And we're gonna see Microbial Shroud potentially? We'll see. Rogue in Game 9 is gonna break out the most divisive new quote-unquote StarCraft 2 upgrade. Microbial Shroud now reduces ranged attack damage by 50% within the Shroud. So I think some of the exceptions apply, like fire bats, in doing mostly splash damage as opposed to direct attack damage, which it reduces. It's essentially a Temu Dark Swarm, okay? But the reason we don't see it very often in StarCraft 2 so far is it's on the Infestor, which has no way to eat Zerglings to gain energy. Dropship coming around. Meanwhile, the main army headed to the right side. And see if any medic. He has a medic in there, so ByuN, the most ByuN possible tactic. The bait and switch. Microbial Shroud's nearly done, but Fungal is very much available. Irradiate on the Infestors! Gotta send it in. Throws out the Fungal. And gotta be careful. No! No, 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 no! Social distancing! The Marines and the medic in the main. Two brothers. Alright. This is awkward. Well, that was pretty gruesome, but dropship taken out. Ultralisk Cavern now about completed as well. The fire bats sprinkled in. Not sure how effective they'll be with that many banelings on the field. Is that actually spider mines? Indeed. ByuN, getting a little bio-curious in Game 9 as well. Going to be adding in more of that mech composition. Gets jammed into a quarter, targets down some of the banes. 5 factories on the way. As a clear switch towards McDonald's now. ByuN down 25 supply, but I'm not sure how much of a factor that is at this stage. Vulture speed as well as spider mines on the way. Spider mines completed. And spider mines could be a very strong in general, but a very strong choice against the Ultralisks, as I believe they do approximately 1 fuck ton of damage to whatever they hit and everything in the general vicinity. Though he hasn't burrowed any down yet. A scan. Thinking about going forward. The Ultras at the front. A little late on the mines. Tries to throw him out. And maybe a D-Matrix. Not sure he has the energy, but the Banelings are just rolling through. ByuN prepared for this attack. And the Ultras cleaving through the front base. Some Zerglings get into the third. And it's all coming ByuN done. Oh no, Rogue jumps him before the mech switch is complete. And ByuN loses so much momentum. The Infestors giving a Microbial Shroud. There it is. The Irradiate for the spicy Ultras through the Shroud. Now, the Shroud keeping the Ultra alive. The Irradiate's going to be the best chance to do damage. But here we go. The Spider Mines laying into the Ultras. But ByuN loses 50 supply, 36 SCVs. He takes out one of Rogue's bases. But Rogue completely annihilated one and gutted another. So many Zerglings then. But it's not about how many Zerglings you lose, as we've seen time and time again. It's about how many you have to replace them. And Rogue is continuing across. He has most of his side of the map. Losing that one base pales in comparison to the amount of units that he can put on the field. And oh no, if ByuN had even a few more seconds of warning, he could have had the Spider Mines ready. And we may have finally gotten our full-on Brood War versus SC2 game. I was looking so much forward. ByuN, how dare you drop the ball like this? But he fumbled the timing. And now it very much looks like Rogue is in pole position to take it from here. He not only destroyed the bases, he also destroyed the SCVs. He reset the unit count. And it was at the worst possible time for ByuN. Switching into mech, but he wasn't there yet. And there just wasn't really that much counter damage either. It's not quite past tense, but it's a very tense situation for ByuN. He's got spider mines, he's got science vessels, but a single Zergling can potentially draw them out. Won't when the siege tanks are here, but oh, spiders. Irradiate. Just imagine if he had 20, 30 more supply to back this up. More spider mines trying to draw him in. Slams into the Ultras, some of them cloven through before they can connect. Unsiege tanks actually quite helpful. And ByuN is holding. But it's the economy, stupid. Like, it keeps coming back to the fact that Rogue, yeah, the income gap is quite significant here. Even seeing Microbial Shroud. Not sure. Well, against especially the mech composition. It doesn't help against the Spider Mines or the Irradiate. Wow, the Corruptor's coming out. And ByuN, after such an arduous series, is forced to tap out without the Irradiate to fall back on. But What a series. These two giving it their all, going all the way. Rogue takes it 5 games to 4. What a back and forth. I'm continually impressed by both the professional looking nature of the mod and the fact it feels so balanced. Like, it to an extent feels more balanced than the current StarCraft 2, but of course, these two willing to go back and forth, not getting so crazy with the all-ins, but instead just brawling it out on the field. Thank you again to Enki for putting on these series. Thank you to you for watching. And if you got the means of motivation, it'd be awesome if you could check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. Thank you to our mule tier patrons bringing in those extra minerals. ByuN didn't have quite enough, but he tried. Big Jiggy, Devin, Door, Drac, Kate, Mario Suit. And if you want to sound as pretentious as me, you can check out the Elgato Wave 3, which you see in front of my face, right in front of my mouth, all the time. Jimmy, put the product tag in so we can sell out. Yes, this thing. It's pretty good. And I'll let me speak for myself with it. Yeah, we're slipping those advertisements in right at the end. Just like the corruptors knock things out for ByuN. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day just a little bit better, a significant chunk of it. I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching. Good luck, have fun. Stay chill.
Hell, it's a